Hi guys, Robbat1 here, coming at you with a new Yu-Gi-Oh video along with Charmander in the background as always. And in today's Yu-Gi-Oh video, we're going to be talking about a very important subject. And in today's Yu-Gi-Oh video, the subject we're going to be talking about is, lo and behold, the top 5 best decks of the format. Now, I've been thinking, seeing as the ban list has happened and the format has changed to quite an extent in my opinion, seeing as we've seen stuff like Linkross banned, hurting a load of the needle fiber combos out there. We've seen stuff like Destruction Sword ban that really does stop like Dragon's Link extra deck lock, and losing Linkross really does take a huge hit to the Dragon Link deck as well, and a lot of other strategies that use needle fiber. And we've also seen Smoke Grenade banned, seeing that the hand loops in Infernal Knights are pretty much dead now, and seeing as we've hit this format where these cards are banned, the game has pretty much changed for the better. We've seen a lot of stuff come back like Toad, ABC, a lot of good cards come back. I thought these cards that we're going to be talking about today, these 5 decks, are in my personal opinion going to be the best decks of this format. Now, obviously, unless you're playing maybe online or in remote duels, this might not really affect you too much, but I still like to talk about the best decks after a ban list because it lets me express my opinion to why these decks will be the best. So, guys, without further ado, let's actually get into talking about the decks so you guys can, you know, see what the best decks are. So, let's go. At number 5, the 5th best deck going into this format. Now, the 5th best deck going into this format is something that a lot of people should know about and a lot of people will realize is the best deck of this format, and that is Dinosaurs. Now, Dinos are pretty much untouched. They didn't lose anything in the last ban list. They didn't lose Miscellaneousaurus, which they really should have, because have your red misc. They still have UTC up free. They still have free Soul Eating Oviraptor. They still have free Fossil Dig to go ahead and search anything in the deck. The deck is pretty much at the same power level as it was before. Now, I don't really have much to say about this deck because pretty much this deck is still what it did before, which is just like maybe make VFD, maybe make Lagyrodolka, end on a UTC, have Miscellaneousaurus to go ahead and summon your Bling Dinosaur and everything along those lines. But the reason this deck is actually at number 5 and not higher on this list, and this is something that I want to explain more so to why the deck will be the best deck, because of literally it's the same deck from last format. There's not really a big reason to explain. It does the same things that it did before, that as such as just like Misc, stop you from negating the activated effects of dinosaurs, and then go ahead and special summon the Bling Dinosaur and just go from there to make UTC and then just OTK. But this deck is going to be 5th for the specific reason that we're entering a new type of format in Yu-Gi-Oh! In my opinion, where you really have to focus more on the card of VFD, True King of All Calamities. And because of that, this deck is going to be the 5th best deck. Now, when you really think about it, Miscellaneousaurus cannot prevent VFD from stopping them, because Miscellaneousaurus only prevents the activated effects from your opponents from stopping your dinosaur effects. Now, VFD is a floodgate effect, so if you normal summon that Solo Eating Oviraptor, well, you're not going to get the result you want. Your Solo Eating Oviraptor is going to be negated, and you're not going to be able to go any further from there. You're not going to be able to activate your Miscellaneousaurus Engrave if they declared fire, because, you know, everything's fire now, and Miscellaneousaurus can't activate. You're not going to be able to use everything dinosaurs could do. Now, because that's the sole reason why I think this deck is going to be 5th, but even though that is the case, VFD is going to be the main key card of this format, and it's just going to be really, really insane. It doesn't matter though, because Dinosaurs is still a really powerful deck, still being able to do everything they did last format, such as OTK really easy, stop your opponent from affecting all their dinosaurs with Miscellaneousaurus as long as VFD is not involved, and you've still got so many other things in the game right now that really Dinosaurs have to go for them. So I honestly could see VFD being, well, not VFD, sorry, Dinosaurs being one of the best decks of this format. So on number 5, I believe it will be Dinosaurs. So Dinos at number 5, it really does make sense because you have your red misc. Yeah. So number 5 is Dinosaurs. Now, the 4th best deck in the game at the current moment, in my personal opinion, is Altergeist. Now, a lot of you are probably saying, Altergeist? How is Altergeist better than Dinosaurs? Well, when you really think about it, as I said before, we're going into a VFD meta. Now, what are the best kind of decks that can out of VFD? Now, my opinion says decks that play a lot of trap cards. Decks that play a lot of purple cards that say, I can deal with VFD without really caring. So, honestly, Altergeist makes a lot of sense to be one of the best decks in the format. The deck says that I play a lot of trap cards. The deck says I'm really consistent if I have the free multi-faker or I draw the spoofing. The deck says I can out pretty much any board my opponent makes. The deck says I can control the game to a large extent. So why wouldn't Altergeist be one of the best decks of the format? The deck is really strong. The deck can easily out VFD by literally just summoning multi-faker and then summoning Silcatus, or better yet, when they activate the VFD effect, they're on their own turn or on your turn or anything like that, just activate Silk effect to return maybe an Altergeist trap to the hand to get rid of the VFD, and then you can go from there, or even go ahead and activate like Protocol to go ahead and negate the VFD there. Use stuff along the lines of literally anything and all, guys. Impermanence, Protocol, any of the back row cards that you would play. The deck can play so many different variations of trap cards. You've got so many different variations of the deck as well. And even though the deck did lose Link Cross, meaning that you can't use Hextia to go ahead and send Hextia to graveyard to search any Altergeist card you want, the deck even still has the normal Hextias anyway to be able to negate spell and trap cards on the board. Now, this deck does have one major weakness, which I can agree to, and that is that Lightning Storm and Feather Duster are in the game. But the deck has access to more cards as well, such as Imperial Order anyway, so even though the deck does have the weakness of Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster and MSTs and stuff along those lines, I still see the deck being very strong, seeing as literally just normal summon Metaseek, make Link Kuriboh, search Multi-Faker, and then set 4 and pass is still a really strong end turn board that you could be having cards like Solemn Strike, Solemn Judgment, Dogmatica Punishment, which is technically 2 pops now. You could have Trap Trick in the deck as well, which is the variant that I personally play. Trap Trick variant I think is probably the best variant because you can go ahead and banish a normal trap card to set any trap card from your deck, i.e. maybe Impermanence to be, like I said before, to go ahead and negate that VFD that could be causing you issues. You could go ahead and control the game to a huge extent. So personally, I feel Altergeist is one of the strongest decks this format. Other decks as well, there are a lot of different control decks in the game that I personally feel like are going to be really strong in this format, such as like the Elder Lich deck with like Dogmatica inside, Dogmatica deck in general, Invoke Dogmatica. A load of different control decks out there are going to be really strong, but I feel like Altergeist is probably going to be one of the better ones looking into the game, because the cards are just really strong. Multi-Faker being able to summon itself and then summon another Altergeist, such as Silcatus, to go ahead and disrupt your opponent's board, being able to use stuff like Impermanence, Trap Trick, Judgment, so many different trap cards that are just really strong, and even being able to use cards like Imperial Order that the deck doesn't really care about because the deck doesn't use many traps, or many spells, I mean, so you can't really deal with it that way. So honestly, I feel like Altergeist is going to be a really strong contender this format. I could see it being one of the best decks of the format, being a deck that is really strong, a really strong control deck, really easy to outvert VFD. Like literally any deck I think this format that can out VFD will be good, and I just think Altergeist is the best deck to be able to out VFD because it's got the best trap cards in the game to be able to do it. Now, as I said, Elder Lich is another one that could potentially be one of the best decks of this format as alongside Altergeist, but I just personally see Altergeist being the better one in general because it has a lot more stuff it can do compared to Elder Lich, because all Elder Lich can do is summon Golden Lord, then pop with like Conquistador and banish with the Hulk, the other zombie one, the one that banishes one from grave. Now, that's just my personal opinion. They also play Dogmatica, so there's little different things there, but I personally feel like the Altergeist deck is a lot better. So, yeah, Altergeist at number 4. But number 3. Now, the third best deck of this format, I don't think will surprise anyone, and that is Zodiac. Now, Zodiac is definitely going to be one of the best decks this format for a ton of different reasons. First reason, Zeus. Zeus literally says, I'm a clear the board, I'm a quick effect, so even if you do somehow stop me, I'm not going to care because I just make Zeus and do that. You've got cards like Drytron, which will, i.e. allow you to pop True King of All Calamities, VFD, on their turn. You've got a lot of different things that Zodiac has to go for it, but the deck is also a really strong deck this format for a few more reasons other than that. One, it plays a ton of hand traps. Zodiac plays like Nibiru, Ash Blossom, Impermanence, Ghost Ogre, Effect Veiler. You could play those 15 hand traps in Zodiac and not give a damn. You can play different versions of Zodiac, such as the Elder Lich version. You could play the Elder Lich version, the Dogmatica version. Like, just tons of different versions of Zodiac to be really strong. The deck is really good with back row as well. You can play a ton of different back rows, such as Compulse, Judgment, Warnings, strikes, cosmic cyclones to be able to get rid of back row. The deck has a lot of space for it to be used with a lot of different strategies. So Zodiac is going to be one of the best decks of the format because of that. And honestly, Zodiac, I don't think people would be surprised Zodiac being one of the best decks of the format. Like literally just saying Borbo attack directly with 6 materials, you can activate Zeus 3 times in the same turn. So if they don't have a counter trap like Solemn Strike, then the Zeus is just going to clear the board anyway. So it's just like looking at stuff like that, I can honestly see that Zodiac is going to be the best deck. It also has really insane link monsters, such as the Infinitrack link, which just allows you to target opponent's card, equip it to as a Drytron engrave, and then summon the Drytron onto the board. So you've got like that lock as well, and it can only be destroyed by literally anything that isn't an Xyz monster can't kill it, and anything that isn't an Xyz monster can't kill it, and it can only be affected by spell and trap cards outside of that. No monster can actually affect the card, which is just absolutely insane there as well. So Zodiac is just a really strong deck this format. I can definitely see being one of the best decks, if not the best deck. The only reason it isn't the best deck, obviously, is because it can't make VFD, it can't make True King of All Calamities. It does have ways to out it, such as Drytron, as I said before, literally just going ahead and summoning Drytron on your turn, setting some cards, having the hand traps in hand ready is enough to out the Drytron and normally win you a game in Zodiac as well. So literally just summon Drytron, pass, pop the VFD, go from there, and you're really, really good already. So yeah, Zodiac definitely one of the best decks this format. I honestly don't see this deck being bad at all, and it will be a top contender this format in my opinion. Especially knowing that this deck has other variants, such as the Elderlich and the Dogmatica variant, that is just really, really strong as well. So, yeah, Zodiac at number 3. Number 2. Now, the second best deck of this format is one that, honestly, I didn't expect at first to be one of the best decks in the game. And honestly, because a lot of side sets don't normally create the best decks in the game. Now, obviously, I'm not saying side sets have never created best decks in the game, seeing as we've had, like, Necros, Sky Strikers, Ritual Beast, a ton of good decks, and Elderlich and Emancipator all come from side sets and become some of the best decks in the game. But when I saw Genesis Impact, I never thought Drytron would be the best deck in the game. I thought it would be a very good deck. I thought it would be like a tier 2, tier 1.5, but I never thought it'd be the best deck. Now, Drytron, I think, is the second best deck. And there are a couple of reasons for this, and it's purely because this deck is actually really, really strong. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, this deck isn't going to be the best deck, but now that Konami have actually done a lot of hitting on the ban list and have gotten rid of Linkross, gotten rid of Smoke Grenade, and gotten rid of Destruction Sword, honestly, this deck's going to be amazing. This deck will be one of the best decks in the game, and there's multiple reasons for this. One, it can make VFD like it doesn't even care. Like, legit, this deck makes VFD like no tomorrow. It does it very easily and doesn't really care. Two, the deck is a very strong summoning mechanic in ritual summoning because it has the new ritual monster that says you can, ritual spell, sorry, that says you contribute your Drytron monsters for equals 2k each to go ahead and ritual summon a monster with the same or less attack. And third, this deck actually can go ahead and utilize the X deck better than any deck in the game. Literally, because of every Drytron says, you can either tribute a Drytron or you can tribute its a ritual card to go ahead and summon it. Now, obviously, that wouldn't really always be amazing, but there are ritual cards in the game, such as Ben 10, let's say when you tribute it, you go ahead and just search a light fairy monster, and that wouldn't always be insane. But the fact that you're able to search hand traps like Herald Orange Light that says you can go ahead and discard a fairy, another fairy monster, and itself to negate a monster effect is essentially being able to add a gamma to your hand in a sense, because it gives you the ability to negate and destroy opponent's monster effects. Now, this card can also give you access to cards like Herald of the Arclight. No, well, Herald of the Arclight, yes, it can allow you to summon Herald of the Arclight, which will be another negate. It can make VFD. It has a turn skip combo. Like, I'll put the cards on the screen, I can't remember the exact cards, but one of them is the True Draco Overlord that literally says it skips your opponent's main phase, and then there's another card that it uses that says when you enter the standby phase, you can activate the card, and your opponent doesn't get a battle phase, essentially ending your opponent's turn and putting it back on your turn, allowing you to use all the Drytron effects again and just OTK your opponent. So, Drytron are honestly one of the more insane decks of this format. They're able to make VFD, they're able to skip your opponent's turn, they're very, very consistent consistent in what they do. They're probably one of the best ritual decks in the game, beating out Necros very easily right now, because Necros, you think how strong that was back in the day? This deck is even better than Necros right now because of what it can do, and honestly, I can see this deck being one of the best decks in the game because of that. So Drytron, just a really strong deck. It makes VFD, it can skip your opponent's turn, it can skip your opponent's main phase, it can go ahead and make multi-negate boards, which is just absolutely insane as well, and honestly, the deck's going to be a really, really strong contender. So, Drytron, they're definitely the second best deck and will do a lot in this game. If they were more consistent though, they would be number one, but I personally feel like the next deck is the number one best deck. So, let's get on to that. So, at number one, the best deck in this format out of all the decks in the game currently. Now, this was something I had to think about, because originally I was thinking it would be Drytron. I was thinking Drytron would be the best deck in the game, but when I really thought about it, for how the decks are playing, what's the most consistent deck, how consistent are all these other decks, what can beat these decks individually, what can do and respectively, I thought, nah, this is definitely going to be the best deck. And the best deck of the format is Virtual World. Now, Virtual World is an absolutely insane deck. The deck is super consistent for the fact that you literally every monster gets you to your combo play. The deck is pretty much VFD turbo, so no matter what, you're going to guarantee that you make VFD turn one every game. And this deck does what most decks can't do and can hand loop you for maybe 2 cards and make VFD, or go ahead and just make 2 VFD. And the thing is, the reason why this deck kind of beats all the other VFD decks, the decks that would make VFD, and what makes it VFD Turbo the best VFD Turbo, is because Virtual World, if your opponent impermanences your True King of All Calamities when you activate the effect, you can just go ahead and activate the trap card to go ahead and return 2 banished Virtual World cards to the deck to destroy your True King of All Calamities and prevent your opponent from playing for the turn. Now, that normally wouldn't be insane because you're destroying your True King of All Calamities, but the deck doesn't care because the deck just resets everything up and summons another True King of All Calamities, and the deck can even make 2 True King of All Calamities on turn 1 as well, so even if your opponent does have the impermanence, the deck doesn't really care. The deck is super consistent, having a load of ways to send stuff like the Spell Gate, the Spell Virtual World Gate, to the graveyard to be able to go ahead and search any Virtual World from your deck to your hand. You could be searching Jiao Jiao, you could be searching Lulu, just to be able to go ahead and extend further, or search, or summon from grave. You could be literally doing so many different things in Virtual World. It just makes it the most insane deck of the format, and that really is a thing in the format when you really think about it. If a deck can make 2 VFD, has potential to also hand loop, can summon back resource from the graveyard, because there's Synchro Monster on the hand also, which is pretty much a Macrocosmos on board that says you can banish 2 monsters with different types from your graveyard, and special summon it from the graveyard as well, which is just absolutely insane to go along with that as well. So the deck has just so many different plays, so many different lines of plays, so many different things you can do in it, that the deck is very easy to play. It does have some kind of skill ceiling to it, but being a deck that's just VFD Turbo, being a deck that can play around every hand trap your opponent has. Literally, this deck can play through roughly 2 to 3 hand traps as well, which is just something else that makes the deck really, really insane, and doesn't even add cards outside of maybe 1 card that does add. It really does make you think that this is the best deck of the format, and it definitely is a contender for the best deck of the format, and I personally feel like it is the best deck of the format, so that's just my personal opinions. But guys, that's the video though. Tell me what your thoughts are on this video in the comment section below. Do you think these are the top best 5 decks of the format? Do you think other decks are the best decks of the format? Do you think there are other decks in the game that could beat all of these? Do you think that VFD won't be as relevant as it is? Personally, I can't see VFD not being good. I really do think VFD Turbo decks will be some of the best decks of the format, and then decks that are really built to just beat VFD Turbo will just come out of nowhere and knock VFD in the face as well, such as like Altergeist, Zodiac Elderlich, Zodiac Dogmatica. You get where I'm going with this. There's no pure Elderlich or Dogmatica variant in the game right now that's really, really strong. But these are just what I personally think are the best decks. Dinosaurs are definitely going to be on the map still. Altergeist will come out of nowhere as well and beat the VFD Turbo decks, along with maybe the Zodiac decks and the Dino decks if possible. You'll definitely see Drytron being in the game. The deck's just absolutely insane. Being able to make VFD, skip your opponent's turn, make multiple negate boards. It's absolutely nuts. And then Virtual World is just Virtual World. It's VFD Turbo, can make like 2-minute turn, give your hand loop you a bit as well. It's absolutely insane. But guys, those are just my thoughts as opinions. Tell me what your thoughts are and opinions are in the comment section below. I'd love to hear them and look at them and read them. I always read the comments, guys, and reply to them if they're questions as well. So go ahead and do that in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Twitch. The link to that in the description is below. I stream on Mondays and Wednesdays. I also multi-stream to YouTube as well. But it's just like I want to build the Twitch following as well, so we can go ahead and get more viewers there on that side as well. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one, and these are what I personally feel are the top 5 decks. We're all about one, signing out. Later all.